But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We are not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Ministerio de Trabajo, Empleo y Seguridad Social, afuera. Ministerio de Educación, adoctrinamiento, afuera. Ministerio de Transporte, afuera. Ministerio de Salud, afuera.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I gotta tell you guys, we got more bad news for the mainstream liberal media. I got a feeling that it's just not going to be a good 4 years for them, okay? I don't think that the constant 24/7 Trump derangement is going to save the media from their historically low viewership, okay? Their ratings are in the tank. We've talked about this yesterday, and now we're talking about the media again. Because remember, just a few days ago, they were upset about the White House allowing more diversity of ideology into the White House press room, okay? They're saying, listen, we're not just going to have the press room reserved for traditional media, which is dying. We're going to also allow alternative media, podcasters, influencers to also be a part of the press because that's where everybody's going, okay? And, you know, they got upset about it. They were butthurt about it. And they're going to be even more butthurt by some of the moves that the Trump administration is making. Because now the Pentagon is saying that they are removing major media outlets, including NBC News, from dedicated workstations in favor of a new rotation program. So basically, you're going to have traditional news outlets like NBC News, the New York Times, NPR, Politico. They have to vacate their dedicated workstations, and they're going to allow non-traditional outlets like, for example, Breitbart and OAN to have access to those workstations on rotation. Now, I already know that the liberal media, they're going to be super upset about this, okay? They're going to be upset about diversity and inclusion, right? Which is the most hilarious part about this, okay? They're going to be upset about more diversity, okay? When they are losing their spots, yeah, they're going to be mad about it. They're going to be upset about that, right? They're not going to like that very much. So with that being said, the news gets even worse for the mainstream liberal media, and we got to talk about CBS because they are now bending the knee, folding to President Trump, who sued them for $10 billion after the CBS News interview with Kamala Harris, in which President Trump accused them of editing the video in order to make Kamala Harris look good. Now, at the time in which his interview came out, FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr came out and demanded that CBS release the whole interview, okay? Release the transcripts, release the whole interview so that the American public can see exactly what was said due to these accusations. Take a look.
That is infuriating, Commissioner. Really, when you look at those completely different answers, it's clear that the second answer was actually not even part of the first answer. I mean, they may have actually taken the second answer from a different question and just inserted it in there. What do you want the FCC to do here in terms of CBS's local New York station, WCBS?
Yeah, my FCC colleague, Republican Commissioner Symington, has been very active on this. What he's pointed out is the news distortion rule is a very, very narrow rule at the FCC. In almost every case, it doesn't apply because it could get into sort of editorial decisions that are protected by the First Amendment. But what he said is that CBS should release the transcript. And the reason why this complaint is not frivolous is because the rules say, for instance, the example we've given is if you take an answer to a question that is a yes, and you replace the answer of no from a different question, that's something that would potentially fall within the news distortion rule. My position is I agree with Catherine Herridge. She was a former CBS reporter. She has said that she thinks, just as a matter of journalistic practice, CBS should release the transcript. And I think that's right. I don't think this needs to be a federal case because I think CBS should release it, and then that would, inoculate entirely CBS from that FCC complaint.
Yeah, so fast forward till today. Mr. Brendan Carr is now the chairman of the FCC under President Trump. And CBS is now agreeing to hand over the 60 Minutes Kamala Harris interview transcripts to the FCC. Now, this comes as CBS also allegedly is about to settle their lawsuit with President Trump. Again, President Trump sued them for $10 billion over the interview being edited. And we already know that that is going to generate a whole lot of outrage from the mainstream liberal media. Just look at what happened when ABC settled their lawsuit with President Trump. The media got upset, right? They got mad because they saw that as President Trump winning over the media, right? And then you have CBS about to go down that same route. As the FCC chairman, Brendan Carr, he is reopening up an investigation into these mainstream liberal media news outlets for pushing propaganda on behalf of Kamala Harris, trying to rig the outcome of the election. Take a look.
Complaints of media bias against CBS, ABC, and NBC have been revived by President Trump's new Federal Communications Commission chair, Brendan Carr. The FCC chair under the Biden administration, Jessica Rosenworcel, had dismissed the complaints of biases in election coverage last week. But under Carr, the FCC will continue to investigate the complaints, claiming these affiliates distorted their broadcast to favor Vice President Kamala Harris over now President Donald Trump during the heat of the election cycle. FCC Chair Brendan Carr taking over the federal agency this week and immediately reversing his predecessor's decision to dismiss 3 bias complaints. The now former FCC chairwoman called the complaints a weaponization of the agency's licensing authority, saying the complaints were at odds with the First Amendment's protections of a free press. But Carr says the decision to dismiss the complaints was done prematurely, based on an insufficient investigation that deserves further consideration. Here's the 3 complaints the FCC will be looking at, all filed by the law firm Center for American Rights. An ABC affiliate is accused of bias favoring Harris over Trump during the September presidential debate. A CBS affiliate is accused of news distortion in the way 60 Minutes edited its interview with Harris. And an NBC affiliate is accused of violating an equal time FCC rule when Saturday Night Live featured Kamala Harris in a cameo the weekend before the presidential election. The equal time rule requires broadcast stations to give equal coverage to competing political candidates. When Rosenworcel dismissed the equal time rule complaint, she said Trump was given airtime the next day during a NASCAR race and an NFL Sunday Night Football game, and said the FCC shouldn't be the president's speech police. During the election cycle, Trump had called for ABC, CBS, and NBC to lose broadcasting rights over the issues detailed in these complaints. National networks are not licensed by the FCC, but the FCC is responsible for licensing individual stations, like local network affiliates, which is why in the complaints, a local affiliate is the named target. According to the FCC's own website, the agency has the right to impose a variety of penalties on a broadcast station. That includes hefty fines and revoking licenses. But the FCC says it rarely intervenes due to the fine line between news distortion and First Amendment rights. If the former FCC chairwoman would have dismissed these 3 complaints a few weeks earlier, then it would have prevented Trump's FCC chair from being able to revive the cases. But the complaints will now get a second look by the agency under new leadership.
As they should. As they should. And if they didn't do anything wrong, then what's the problem, right? What's the problem with having the FCC make sure that there was no election interference, to make sure that they weren't trying to rig things in Kamala Harris's favor, but they were, right? I mean, everybody knows they were, okay? This is why CBS is trying to settle the lawsuit with President Trump, right? Because again, they didn't do anything wrong, then they should just fight it, right? If they did not try to distort the news in favor of Kamala Harris, then they should just fight it. But that's not what they're doing, right? That's not what they're doing. Again, just like with ABC. They say, oh, George Stephanopoulos, he didn't defame President Trump by falsely claiming that he's a rapist, but he did. And if he didn't do that, again, why is ABC settling the lawsuit? I don't understand. I don't get it. But anyways, again, CBS News staffers They're upset about this. They're super mad about CBS thinking about selling this lawsuit. Again, they're already handing over the transcript to the FCC, and they're also thinking about selling the lawsuit with Trump. CBS News staffers are reportedly furious over parent company Paramount Global's intent to reach a settlement of a $10 billion lawsuit filed by President Trump over a controversial 60 Minutes interview with former Vice President Kamala Harris. Journalists at the Tiffany Network's news division are up in arms as Paramount chairwoman Sherry Redstone green-lighted talks with the president's representatives over a payout, the Status newsletter reported on Friday. Then candidate Trump filed a lawsuit in October in which he accused the long-running investigative program 60 Minutes of manipulating an interview with Harris in a way that was unfavorable to him. Insiders told Status that both CBS News president Wendy McMahon and 60 Minutes executive producer Bill Owens are strongly opposed to selling, as staffers fumed that a payout could have negative ramifications for press freedom. Legal experts have dismissed the lawsuit as meritless. Quote, "There is absolutely no reason from a legal perspective for CBS to settle. This is a ridiculous case," First Amendment attorney Theodore Boltris Jr. told Status. Nonetheless, Redstone, the 70-year-old daughter of the late media mogul Sumner Redstone, is believed to be eager to put the legal saga behind her in order to boost the odds that Trump administration regulators will rubber stamp a merger between her company and Skydance Media, according to the New York Times. The Post has sought comment from CBS News and Paramount Global. Harris, to the Redstone family media empire, who is the controlling shareholder of Paramount Global and its parent company, National Amusements, also stands to profit handsomely from the merger. Well, listen, here's the thing. It seems that these individuals are trying to buy off the Trump administration. Okay, I hope it doesn't work. I hope that CBS decides to settle, okay? And then the Trump administration regulators reject the merger anyways, right? They should just reject it as an FU to CBS, a network that we know for a fact has distorted news in favor of Democrats. In fact, one of their award-winning journalists was fired for trying to get to the bottom of the corruption of the Democrat Party and the Biden administration.
The Republican-led House Ways and Means Committee has released hundreds of new documents from the Hunter Biden investigation, and I want to walk you through Exhibit 202 and 203. Exhibit 202 is an email from August of 2020. It was sent by prosecutor Leslie Wolf to senior FBI and IRS investigators who are drafting a search warrant. Wolf tells them to keep the scope narrow and limited to potential violations of foreign lobbying laws, or FARA, and to remove references to political figure one. So who is political figure one? Well, that's explained in Exhibit 203. It's heavily redacted, but this is the draft warrant, and it lists political figure one as former Vice President Joe Biden.
Eventually broadcast a story about the Hunter Biden laptop after the midterm elections in 2022. We commissioned a forensic review. I got a copy of the laptop data. I have it here still. I went to a lot of effort to get the cleanest copy of the laptop data, the same data that was provided to the FBI, because I didn't want to have any professional journalistic risk for CBS News. I wanted this thing to be totally locked down. When we did the story, we did it after the midterms. I argued against that because it was ready before the midterms. And my training is that you should always do the story when it's ready to go. You should not be dictated by the political cycle. Once we got the laptop story on the morning news, I felt that there was so much there that we could still do. For example, in the text messages, there's unfortunately the use of the N-word, the liberal use of the N-word. I thought this was worthy of a story, but I was told that it was not something that interested CBS News. Then I asked for a forensic review of the laptop, and we found that there were more than half a dozen emails that were likely used by Joe Biden. I thought that was a story. But the answer that came back was, well, we need to know what the content is of the emails. But that was going to be a years-long process. So there was no way. There were a lot of reasons I was told not to do it, not to pursue it.
Yeah, and eventually she was fired for this, right? She was fired for wanting to do actual journalism. And actual journalism does not benefit the Democrats, right? It makes Democrats look bad. So that's why they got rid of her, an award-winning journalist. So yeah, I don't think that the Trump administration regulators should go soft on CBS at all. Okay, I'm actually glad that Mr. Brendan Carr is deciding to hold these outlets accountable. And no, this is not about taking away the freedom of the press. It's not about taking away their free speech rights or anything like that. That's not what it's about. There's a difference between freedom of speech and being a news outlet, okay, or a cable TV station that is licensed by the government, and then you're turning around and you are distorting interviews with presidential candidates in order to benefit the candidate that you want to win. Yeah, I don't think that that's something that we should just let slide, right? Again, especially when you're talking about news stations doing this, that again, you get licensed from the government, okay? So at the end of the day, you have a responsibility to the American people to be truthful and to be honest. And when you're not doing that, when you're working on behalf of a political party trying to rig the outcome of the election, yeah, that is something that I think the FCC should look into. That's the whole point of having a governmental entity like that, right? To hold these outlets accountable. So, hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.